Were you refused a visa at your last US visa interview and you don't know what to do? Should you reapply? And more importantly, when you fill out that DS-160 again, what are you supposed to put in that spot that says were you refused a visa in the past and explain? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through how to fill out that DS-160 question and what to do when you reapply after you've been refused. Hi, and thank you for joining me to talk U.S. immigration. My name is Andrea Shev, if you don't know me already, and I am a U.S. immigration attorney, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. I put together this YouTube channel to give you clear, concise, and easy to understand information about all different topics related to U.S. immigration. But in this video, we are going to talk about two things: refusals and why you were refused, because half the time we have no idea why. And also on your DS-160, when you reapply for your visa again, what are you supposed to put in that box that says explain underneath were you ever refused a visa, where you have to mark yes? I'm going to go through these and we're going to talk about what you're supposed to do on the DS-160 and also talk a little bit about refusals in general. Okay, the first order of business is talking about why were you refused. When you go to your interview and you're refused at your interview, a lot of the times, if not all of the times, the officer doesn't tell you why. You're just left with a refusal and you have no idea why you were refused, and they don't give you any clue of why you were refused. So you leave having no idea what you're supposed to do next. But you do know that you want to reapply again, because usually they'll say you're able to reapply again if you want to when you're leaving the interview. So it becomes a very difficult and tricky issue to figure out what the officer refused you for. Well, to answer that question is a little bit hard too, because I don't know and you don't know, because we're not mind readers. And the officers really make determinations of refusals based on sometimes just feelings, sometimes just subjective ideas about what they believe your intentions are. Not even based sometimes of what you've said. It could be how you present yourself, how you look at them, how you speak. It could be the country you're in. It could be so many things that you have no idea what's going through that officer's mind when you're standing in front of them at the interview. It's not nice. Also, a lot of people think that, oh, he or she told me I was refused right after X question. It doesn't mean that that answer to that question was the reason for the refusal. Sometimes the officers will just go through certain questions and then just at the end, they're like, you're refused. It had nothing to do with the last question or the first question or whatever question. You have no idea. Now, after doing this for over 20 years, I usually can figure out based on what the questions they asked and your answers that you gave them, along with the DS-160 application, likely why they refused you, where we can then work with you on trying to fix the problem of the last interview, so then the next interview will be more successful. But a lot of people all by themselves, it's really, really hard to figure out how to read the mind of the officer to know why in the world did they refuse you. So that's the first order of business, is trying to figure out why they refused you. Because the next order of business is what? You have to fill out that DS-160 application again when you're ready to refile to request the visa the next time. And on that DS-160 application, there is the famous question, were you ever refused a visa? Now, if you were, you have to mark yes. You can't get out of that. No way possible. You have to mark yes. And then what happens is a little box pops down that says explain. And you look at that and go, well, how am I supposed to explain when I have no idea of why the officer refused me? They didn't tell me anything. They just either gave me a 214B or they just said, I'm sorry, you're refused. You can apply again. They don't give you any kind of clue of why exactly you were refused. So how are you supposed to explain something that you don't know the answer to because you didn't even know the reason? Well, this becomes a real problem. So what are you supposed to do? If you have the means, you can hire an attorney and work with an attorney like myself, and we can work through the questions and the answers that they asked you and you answered and figure out why they refused you. Because after doing this so long, I'm able to usually figure out what is the reasoning behind the refusal. But if you can't do that, I suggest a few things. One is you just leave it blank. If you have no idea at all why they refused you, and you're purely guessing because you think or you have a hunch, Sometimes it's better to just leave it blank, because what happens? What if you put in there an explanation of something that the officer didn't even think about? And then you're now giving the next officer all this ammunition to possibly deny you on a completely different issue that they didn't even know about. So sometimes you're going to innocently expose yourself to a second denial or a third denial because you put down information in that explain box that had nothing to do with anything that they even thought about. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't even think about that. And that's not the reason why the other officer denied them. But now that I think about it, I should deny them this time too because of what they just wrote in that explain box. So it's very dangerous to put anything there. Another option, which some people will do, is put, there was a misunderstanding on the last interview, and you write your story of why they should actually grant your visa now. I'm going to put a link above this video, in this video, and below the video of a few videos you should watch to know what you should put in that box, meaning what are the things that the officer needs to hear from your mouth in order for you to get that approval. And that information, that story, needs to go in that box. Because then it's safe, right? You're saying there was a misunderstanding because clearly there was, because you thought you were approvable and you don't know why you were refused. So I call that a misunderstanding. And then below that, you're going to write your story. You're going to answer the questions of why this time they need to grant you the visa. Okay? So if you don't know and you don't have a clear reason of why they refused you, then either you leave it blank, or my suggestion, possibly you put in a misunderstanding and then explain in detail based on these videos you should watch of why you should be granted the visa this time. Now, if you can come to me and we can work through it together, I'm happy to help you. We'll go through, and based on the questions and the answers and the DS-160 questions and answers, we should be able to figure out probably likely the reasoning for the refusal and correct that on the next interview. But for everyone, it is super, super tricky and hard to try to read the mind of an officer. It could be so many things, like I said. It could be even that they're just having a bad day, and that's why they refused your application. They shouldn't do that. They're human, and sometimes that happens. So it's a very difficult situation. And it's a very, very hard answer to force you to explain when you have no idea why the officer denied you. I hope this was helpful, and please reach out to me if you can. I'm also going to put below this video a link to a free visa interview guide, which comes with a checklist and tips and pointers that you can use on your next visa interview, or if it's your first visa interview, use it for your first visa interview. Also, I'll put a link below to contact me if you want to set up a interview consultation that we'll go through, and we'll prep you and we'll talk to you, and I'll test you, and we'll do questions and do everything that you need in order to be the most prepared for either your first interview or an interview after refusal, and also help you with that DS-160 and getting that question answered as best you can to give you the best chance of getting approved on your next interview. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, comment, like. I appreciate it all. And I love reading your stories below the videos. I read all of them. Please give me your stories, give me your information, tell me you're approved. If you weren't approved, why you don't think you're approved, please reach out. Love the comments. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video.